Hey there, you're listening to a special bonus edition of the podcast. I'm interviewing as many people as I can to offer insight into how to communicate during the coronavirus pandemic. My guest on this episode is Krista Fabrick. She is a marketer and a speaker and a professor who is helping organizations, small to medium-sized businesses, market during the crisis. This is an unprecedented time for sure. A lot of small to medium-sized businesses are struggling with how to keep the doors open. And also, if they are open, how do you market the product during a pandemic? So the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses, they are being hit hard. And I spoke with Krista about ways that they can survive this crisis, how they can adapt to the crisis, and some of the pivots that they can make to be able to emerge from it. Listen to my special episode with Krista Fabrick. Hi, Krista. Thank you for joining me on this video chat.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to our conversation for a while now.
It's been a while, yes. And where it started, of course, and I remember this, it was a night where I needed to fall asleep and I couldn't. And I was making every mistake where you stay up on social media. And I was on LinkedIn and it was your article that just jumped out at me because I thought it was so fascinating. And it was how to enter a room. And I read it and I thought, oh, this is the best podcast, episode topic I could think of. I couldn't wait to speak with you. And then of course, since, things happen and now here we are, the coronavirus, we're into, at this point of recording, we're like 4 weeks into it. I guess I'm East Coast, you're West Coast. You're probably actually in Arizona.
We were a little behind the curve in Arizona.
Yeah, you're behind the curve. And I noticed that. And also it's interesting how they talk about with the baseball season, how they may be playing baseball in Arizona.
Yes.
Arizona is a unique area. But
right.
as we spoke, I understand you have clients really around the country, don't you?
I really do. Yep.
And you specialize in, in this idea of the small to medium-sized business owners. So we needed to reconnect because I still thought that there was value in what you have to offer. But just when we come to that time and place where we get into rooms together again, we're definitely, I'm going to revisit that, how to enter a room. But talk about, not being applicable at all because no one's in the room unless you're with your family. But Krista, I wanted to talk to you, today and interview you and get your ideas about marketing because I'm still following you actively on LinkedIn and you are so good about putting videos out there and training and offering it for free. And I love your content. So today I wanted to have a brief chat on how we could help marketers, small to business marketers get through this. So what have you been doing? What have you been thinking? Any thoughts have changed in the last few weeks in your business?
Yeah. So, right away, as soon as I saw everything was starting to shut down around the country, where these, restaurants and coffee shops and, non-essential businesses that were either shutting down completely or having to reduce their offerings completely. I have a network of my clients and of just small businesses that I know here that were going, oh my gosh, I have to shut my doors, or oh my gosh, who am I going to have to lay off, or oh my gosh, how am I ever going to survive this? And I immediately started hearing that, and I went, what can I do to help? Okay, I've been through the 2008, recession or whatever, all those years. I've been through some very specific crisis situations with clients where, for example, you may remember Tiger Woods and his fiasco. Tiger Woods Foundation was a client of mine.
Stop. Wait a minute. I have to pause here for a moment. Yeah. So when the Tiger Woods fiasco, so I know it was Thanksgiving. Give me the year.
What year was it? 2008 or 9. I can't even remember the year anymore. I worked for that agency for 5 years. His foundation was our client.
So you were working so the foundation was your client. And were you in crisis communication mode when that happened?
So, well, we were their agency of record, and we were in the room when the whole team at Tiger Woods Foundation found out the news of what was going on, and it was and then we went into crisis mode of how do we fix this? How do we not lose every donor we have? Because the work the foundation was doing was amazing, helping children in underserved communities build their characters, after school programs. It was all in Southern California, and it was and we didn't want those children to suffer because Tiger Woods had made some serious mistakes.
Because yes.
And so it was the best lesson I've ever had in crisis communication and crisis marketing, because we had to figure out how to get through that storm.
Oh my gosh. Now, Krista, I don't want to like take this long circuitous path through it to get to what we were talking about marketing. But okay, so we're in a crisis moment right now. It's COVID-19. Right. It's not taking Ambient and having affairs and then having your wife, slam your car door as you run out into a tree. But what was the lesson? Like, how did the foundation get through it? Was there any type of value system or messaging, or what was the response?
Well, so the number one thing that I learned from that, which is what I've been preaching all over, to anybody that will listen right now, is communication, which is why I think we're having this talk, right? Is because the foundation couldn't go silent. They had to immediately get ahead of it. They had to immediately get out to all their schools that they had programs in, to their employees at the centers that were helping the kids, to all their donors. So the immediate, as quickly as possible, we help them craft the messaging. What's the core message we're going to get out there, and how we're going to get it? Emails, phone calls, letters, in-person visits, everything, because we had to get ahead of it. We had to say, we are aware that this has happened. This doesn't affect the foundation's core values. That this is what we stand for, reiterating the message of the foundation. And that still applies today, right? Is if you're a small business and you've shut your doors, don't go silent. You need to talk to your customers, let them know you're coming back, let them know what you're doing in the meantime. How are you improving your business? If you're still open, communicate even more, right? So that definitely communication.
Yeah. And in the case of whether it's, clearly the Tiger Woods Foundation back then, or even now, I mean, this is one of these out of the blue, unknown crises that happen.
Right.
And this leads into it perfectly. It sounds as if you're saying what I say a lot too. You really can't over communicate when there is a message or a value system there. So now let's transition this into, so in terms of your background now, you work with a lot of small to medium-sized businesses.
Yes.
And this idea of communicating clearly and regularly, I assume that's what you're telling all your clients right now. So anyone listening to you now that isn't a client, but in that category, what would you be telling them to do from a communication perspective right now as it relates to the coronavirus?
So I think it's going to depend on the business situation. So if they've temporarily shut their doors, they can be finding ways to provide value to their customers and potential customers by email, by social media, whatever platform they're talking about, by their blogs, by giving helpful information, motivational information, entertaining information. Depends on what your brand voice is. But I've seen a couple of local businesses, and I've had a client who's, in fact, one of my clients, he's a speaker, and he, of course, has 0 gigs at the moment. Everything's been
I feel it
to the second half of the year or next year. And so he's been putting out a ton of free. He does a lot of mindset stuff. So he's been putting out edited versions of his keynotes that people don't pay a lot of money to see for free. He's been putting out, reaching out to his past clients, going, "Can I provide a virtual version of something to help you?" So he has been really just putting that out there. So he shut down, but he is taking the time he has to try and build his audience, on social media and online, and then also to keep the relationships alive with people who have hired him in the past or who have him rescheduled for later, and is trying to find ways to help them. So even though it may not generate income immediately, long term, these people are going to remember him, and they're going to want to keep hiring him when this is all over.
Right. So it sounds like there's value, you're saying, in the pivot. So you're encouraging all of your clients, because for the most part, across the board, everyone is getting some type of hit of what's happening to them, either from a customer point of view, revenue point of view. And I was the same way, as a speaker. I mean, literally like in 2 days, everything was like, whoop, either gone or rescheduled. And my pivot was creating this response kit, is just putting all my information out there and helped. And it was just like a slight pivot that worked because you're finding more need, I think. So let me ask you this. This came up in a conversation that I had with someone the other day in my office space. Her husband had opened up a gym, a special personalized training gym. So a typical small business, right? Yes. And there's so many small businesses in this category where they're just not sustainable because it involves people coming in.
Right.
And I was talking to her exactly about what you're saying about the pivot. What about the business that really isn't, kind of like our first conversation where it was going to be like how to enter a room? What about the business that is really going to struggle with that pivot? Like, are you counseling them on maybe you should shut your doors, or maybe you should pause, or find 100% pivot? Like, what are you telling them for counsel?
Yeah. So, well, for example, somebody like a gym like that, as long as they have any kind of ability to record video and put it online, they could be offering virtual versions of training and classes, right? So even if they have to shut their doors completely, obviously, nobody can come into the gym and there's nothing you can offer as takeout or anything like that. They could still be delivering their services online. I know some restaurants locally decided that it wasn't worth it to stay open for takeout or delivery only. Right. And so they actually shut their doors temporarily, but they are now showing up on Facebook or Instagram with sharing some recipes, sharing some how can you, cook. If you're missing our favorite salad, here's how you can throw it together, or, just things like that. So they're still communicating. Now, obviously, how long can they go on without any revenue? That's, we don't know. And that's, each business is in a different situation. I know another small local chain of restaurants here, they had 4 locations. They shut down to 1. So they laid off the minimal amount of staff to be able to keep running and not lose all of the money. And then, like I'm sure you've heard, a lot of restaurants, they're offering take and bake packages, take and cook packages in addition to their limited takeout menu. A lot of restaurants are offering grocery packages because they have excess supply. And so, and people are struggling to find eggs and milk at the store, and there's limits at the store. And so a lot of a chiropractor who's a client of mine, he's now doing mobile delivery, services at the home. So people who can pay a little extra than they would in the office. He's coming to your home and sanitizing before and after. So there's, even though it's mom and pop shops, there's a lot of little things they can do to maybe keep some cash flow coming in.
Isn't that interesting? Because I was talking to a chiropractor as well. And I haven't seen this in terms of restaurants doing the take and the bake at home. Even though it's common sense, I haven't seen it yet where I am in New England, but of course it must be anywhere. So Chris, it sounds like what you're saying is, unless you just can't sustain revenue wise, that's one thing. But if you want to keep the doors open or temporarily, find your pivot, find the need right now, and really think differently, because we're in such a different environment that something you never would have thought of 6 months ago, all of a sudden is brilliant.
Right. Yeah. Every entrepreneur and business owner has had at least one of those totally out there ideas, right? Well, if that's something you can deliver in this time and it's something that people might want or need, this is the time to try it. Why not? If business is down or gone, you might as well try it.
Okay, so now in terms of your offerings and your offering pivot, what about pricing and marketing? I followed and tracked a lot of, just because I'm in PR response, right? Like the buzzy question is, whenever I'm doing interviews now, what's example of good PR and bad PR? And I guess the general answer is, if someone just understands that they're communicating in a time and not being unnecessary and taking advantage of like crazy marketing opportunities. Let's say someone can't pivot, okay, or they don't have that type of business profile to do it, and they need to come up with offers. So now we're talking about the revenue, the money, and the offering. What should a small to medium-sized business do in terms of sales?
Yes. So, if people want or need your products right now or your services, I'm telling everybody, don't be afraid to market. Don't be afraid to sell. Just because we're in a crisis, doesn't mean you have to stop selling, right? People still have things they need, have things they want. Now, do you have to change the way you sell and be intentional and careful with your messaging? Absolutely. But as far as like offers, promotions, it depends on your business. Like, for example, right now, a lot of the restaurants are offering very, very good takeout prices because their overhead is down, right? So people understand that when we come back and you go dine in, you can't expect that same pricing. But if you're somebody who's selling, a specific product and you're trying to cut the, 50% discount just to get some revenue in right now, if you do that too long, that's going to hurt you. And those customers are going to come to expect that as the regular price.
Right. And I'm noticing the opposite. I'm noticing a spike in prices with restaurants.
Really?
back east. Yeah. It's because
Interesting.
even the kids notice it. They're like, how much was that? $90, for like some
Interesting.
fast
Yeah,
food,
in
burger.
California and Arizona, the restaurants, at least I haven't been paying attention to the chains as much. The chains have been offering like some things, but they've been doing, free delivery, free dessert with takeout, 50% off beer and wine with takeout,
Right.
35% off normal prices. My husband and I just had our anniversary on Wednesday, and we went to order takeout from our favorite steakhouse. I got a 6-ounce filet, a side, a salad, and a dessert for $29. That's normally like $50 at that restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's congratulations on your happy anniversary there. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. Yeah. So I would agree with you on what you're saying is it just simply, just as the pivot in business, pivot with your pricing.
Right.
And nowadays I like that people are looking at partially free. It's not as if everything needs to be free because all of a sudden we're in a crisis.
Right.
But if you get creative with your pricing in terms of like come down when people need something,
Yes.
but if they want it, maybe you don't have to come down as hard or on it. But that's that's interesting.
Well,
Okay, so go ahead.
I was gonna say one more thing, like for service-based businesses, for example, if you're still able to provide services, whatever that might be, maybe you've never offered a payment plan before, but now you do, things like that. So people are scared. Oh my goodness, I can't give this one big chunk of money for this service right now. But if I break it up over the next 3 months, that feels safer because I know, I have a tax refund coming. I know, I'll have a little more revenue here. I don't want to give this all up because what if my revenue dries up next month, So
right.
even being
Great.
creative with the way you take payment.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm glad you added that. I never thought of that. That's wonderful tip. Okay. So now we've talked about pivoting with the offerings, pivoting on price. Let's talk about the last piece of it, which are your employees, your small to medium sized business. So you already have the stress of less revenue likely, but now you have a staff. And in the PR speak, we call these our internal stakeholders. So what are you encouraging your clients to do about them, about that critical group?
Right. So I am fortunate that some of my clients, the clients of mine that do have more than one or two employees, they've been in business for many years and have a pretty solid foundation. And so as of right now, they've maybe done some reduction in hours for some of their employees, but that's it. They've been able to not lay them off. I know that's not, a lot of people aren't that lucky.
Right.
And I think it also depends on the state you're in. Like I know Arizona and California both are offering a lot of paycheck relief things. There's a lot of great small business loans. Like in Arizona, we have a fabulous program that just launched that a lot of the small businesses I know and clients and people I talk to are applying and are able to use those to continue paying their employees at least part of their salary.
Right.
So I think it's just going to be very dependent on your, what's your savings, what's your revenue, what state are you in and what programs are there. But I've been telling everybody if I don't know the answer, do your research, go to your local small business, administration website and find out what are your options for helping your employees. Even if it's for them to apply, the employees themselves to apply for some sort of assistance. But sometimes the employees have no idea where to look.
Right. And so I like this too, that you are helping employees with their economic hardship as well. So to help them look for things. So it sounds as if, work hard, do what you can, pivot in places where you can keep the doors open, keep people paid, but just sustain while you try to emerge. So you're in the business right now of helping people stay in business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know there are some businesses right now that are thriving.
Right.
Obviously, a lot of the technology companies and the hand sanitizer companies, all that. But, for the average small business right now, they're trying to figure out how to survive. And so, I'm communicate, over communicate, and then, pivot when possible and find ways to cut costs, of course, anything that you can cut costs on so that you can, whatever cash flow you are getting. And
Oh, so Krista, as I mentioned earlier, you've offered so much value online. You are, you live and work what you preach. Obviously, is you give where you can, but because there's still a need, you're still in business and people still need you. Now, what are some of the offerings that you have on LinkedIn? If someone wanted to find you on LinkedIn, what are some of the things that you're offering? with your videos and content?
Yeah. So on LinkedIn, I'm the least consistent on LinkedIn, sadly, but honestly, majority of my clients find me or watch me and then become my client on Instagram and Facebook. And so that's why I've struggled to get consistent on LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, I do still provide a lot of videos. And for the last 3 weeks or so, as you noticed, I've been pretty much only talking about how to market right now or what to do right now. So, sharing both text posts and videos to help people. I'm actually about to, I want to publish today an open letter to small businesses during this crisis to help them with their marketing. So it's about 1,000-word blog that's going to just really go point by point, compiling everything I've been talking about. So they have one place to go and read how they can move forward right now.
Oh, that's it. And you're publishing it today?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will make sure that if anyone watching that, the link will be in our show notes and will be in the link because we'll have this video on YouTube as well. But just the fact that I'm predominantly following you on LinkedIn, but you're big on Facebook, on Instagram. It sounds, again, what you're telling businesses, be everywhere that you can and tell people what you have to offer.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Well, Krista, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I mean, what great, valuable advice that I certainly want to pass on to my clients as well. And even me as a small business owner, you gave me some great things to think about. But Krista, your website,
KristaFabrick.com. That's it.
Yep. Yes. Fabrick.com. Krista, thank you so much for sharing. And I will definitely, when there comes a time, we are going to have the interview about how to walk into a room.
That will be a fun one. I love that. Because, one thing we didn't talk about is I'm a college professor as well. And I teach workshops to businesses all the time. And so I'm used to walking into the room and having to figure out, are the students happy, sad, stressed? Are these business owners? Are they engaged? What's going on? So that's why I talk a lot about that stuff. So.
Oh, you and me both. I didn't know that. Are you in front of the college classroom, like standing up, or are you online?
Yep. No, I'm normally in the classroom.
Wow, you are one busy person, but like me, you get it. You're dealing with your Gen Xers, your Gen Z, your millennials, your baby boomers, and you take it on, you pile it all into the mix, and you learn how to disseminate information. Krista, thank you so much for speaking with me. This was incredibly helpful. I know that you have helped a small business owner today.
Thank you. I sure hope so. Thank you again for having me on. This was so enjoyable.
I want to thank Krista for joining me on the podcast and also for dropping that Easter egg about Tiger Woods. It's fascinating, again, the intersection between marketing and crisis communications. Never before this pandemic would I have said that those two intersected as much as they do now. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Keep listening. I'm going to be doing more interviews and including them in my special COVID-19 communication response kit. It is an area for anyone who needs to communicate to their important key stakeholders during a time of the pandemic. So check it out now on my website, mollymcpherson.com, or you can find it on responsekit.org. Thanks for listening. I'll speak to you again next week.